So England are here, and they progress as we thought they would. But now it's been largely said they've got a decent draw, which could take them all the way to the finals. Some other people, some fans, some journalists don't like it when we say that. But we say it because it's true. On Sunday, England against Slovakia. Now, as for Gareth Southgate, and we're going to hear some written quotes that he has given to the media, which might take you even more surprise than what's coming this way. We know that while he's been here, he's been pushing this narrative, if you like, that it's a somewhat unusual, challenging environment in which to operate for England. This is Gareth.
I'm not going to back away from it. The most important thing here is that the supporters stay with the team. I understand the sort of narrative towards me, and you know that's better for the team than it being towards them. But it is creating an unusual environment to operate in. I've not seen any other team qualify and receive similar. So I understand it. I'm not going to back away from it, but I'm very, very proud of the players for how they're operating within it.
I'm quite sure there are other members of the media from other countries who are being as critical and as watchful of their nations as the media are of England, such as Belgium, Alex, for talking's sake. But as Southgate just admitted, he is England's weakest link at this tournament. This is what he told the written media, and this is what has raised an eyebrow here. He said, "Our world is different at the moment, and I feel that is probably because of me. I have to help the players as much as I possibly can because we brought the joy back into playing for England, and we have to be very careful of where we head with it." But then he goes on to say, players have loved playing for England the last 6-7 years. We've got to keep that. We have to keep that. If we don't, I understand the feeling towards me, but back the players. It's crucial the fans back the players. What is he saying there, Alex? What is he saying? I feel that is probably because of me, the way we are judged at this time.
I'm surprised, to be honest, because I think that the one thing that you can say Gareth has been very good at is dealing with the media. And actually, I think that's helped him because I think in terms of recent England managers, probably he's been under less scrutiny than, say, Roy Hodgson was, certainly than Fabio Capello was before him. But he's suggesting there that the supporters aren't behind the team, and that's not been my experience. I was with the England fans for the first game against Serbia. Wasn't great in the second half, but they certainly backed the team. By all accounts, the atmosphere in that final game against Slovenia, which was absolutely dour, was terrific. It was almost songs of defiance from the England supporters. So I don't understand this narrative. And Jude Bellingham started, actually, right after scoring the first game. He gave a TV interview straight after the game and said there's going to be negativity back home. Well, how did he know that at this stage? And it almost seems like the players are trying to create a siege mentality. And what Gareth Southgate has done really well is he's reunited the fans and the players, because there was a massive divide during that golden generation and when Wayne Rooney was having a go at his own supporters in 2010. We haven't seen that under Gareth Southgate. And I think comments like that can be quite destructive, actually, and destroying that relationship between the England team and the England supporters who've travelled in number out here in Germany, with or without tickets, and they're going to keep supporting the team, and they will support Southgate. I think if he starts to play the type of football they believe this group of players are capable of.
Simon, what is he saying here? Our world is different at the moment, and I feel that's probably because of me. Is he being admirably honest, or is it a display of self-pity and weakness?
It's MARTYR-GATE, isn't it? I mean, he's the martyr, ultimately. He is the person that will take all the stick and shield the poor players from the consequences of their rather abject performances, and ultimately he'll take all of that because that's what he does, accentuate the positive. The positive is that the England players love playing for England, and the fans have united with the England team. They've united with the England team because they've won bloody games, and they've played with a degree of substance and finesse at times. And what they were left with after the Roy Hodgson debacle was very little to support. I think his main thrust is not necessarily at the fans. I think it's at the absolute downright effrontery of football players that once played for England to ever comment on anything that they see that isn't positive. So the fact that Gary Lineker decided to describe a performance with an adjective which was pretty apt, and then went on to, of course, to give it more detail and more substance and a little bit more context and nuance, is a major affront to these players and this manager.
You think he's pointing a finger at the likes of Lineker here?
I think so. I think the fact that he went out to the fans and then made a big tub-thumping gesture about the fact that he will take that and he will show the prerequisite amount of courage and bravery and never step back from it. Well, we don't really want your bravery in front of the fans. We want your bravery in the team selection. And we want your bravery in demanding that your players strive for the kind of excellence that I personally think that the English fans are entitled to. I don't want to make it about what these players do and don't get in life, but they're a rarefied breed. Part of the consequences of being a rarefied breed is every now and again you're going to get a bit of criticism. How about shoulders back, chest out? We're going to get better. We recognise our shortcomings, and that we're going to overcome the adversities, and we're going to make people proud.
Yeah.
And we're not going to. And Gareth can't buy his own achievements. He can't now dine out on what I think are fundamentals, which are that England fans are connected with the England team, not because they've got some woke England manager that says the right things, but because the team has operated at a higher level of attainment.
He's woke.
I think undoubtedly he's woke at times. Sometimes
statesman-like.
Sometimes he's that too. And sometimes he's not. Sometimes he gets himself involved with situations that he didn't need to get himself involved with. He gets involved with the idea of taking the knee. He gets himself involved with the political consequences of wearing a One Love armband. He got involved with the perception of what we should be doing in Qatar. He's got involved.
I don't think he did that out of choice, though. Did he? Did that out of sense of duty?
I think you can choose. You don't have an obligation. He may well be. That may well be the reasons why the FA establishment like him so much.
But should you judge him on that, Simon, or should you judge him just in the football?
Well, you judge people by the manner in which they represent themselves. And given the fact he's not a domestic football manager, he's an international football manager, and a large part of his responsibilities and what the FA love is someone that represents them in a way that they think they should be represented. Then yes, he should be judged by it, because a lot of what he is judged by is what he says.
Yeah.
Because he's only responsible for a team 7-8 times a year.
Alex, we'll continue with this the other side of the 10:30 break. We're talking Gareth Southgate. It has raised an eyebrow or two when he said to the written media, our world is different at the moment, and I feel that is probably because of me. And I put it to Simon there, I'll put it to you. Is he being honest? Is that the kind of honesty as fans you want to hear? Or is it a display of self-pity and weakness? Where are you with Southgate? Never mind the team, never mind the players and everything else that goes with the playing side of things. On your manager, on Gareth, where are you at with him now that you've got Slovakia in your sights on Sunday? 03717 223344. That's the number to call, and we will hear from you, even over here in the hot scene that we have found in Dusseldorf this morning. But we make no apology for it. Here in Dusseldorf, Simon, myself and Alex Crook talking about England, talking about Southgate, and this difficult environment, Alex, in which England are working, in which England are operating, that Gareth keeps referring to. Could that ultimately be their undoing?
Maybe. And again, I was listening to Gareth after the game against Slovakia, and I think he made a comment along the lines of, this reminds me of when I was an England player. And obviously he got a lot of stick for, maybe being part of a side that didn't achieve as much as people felt they should. But again, I don't see that. Gareth Southgate's got a song literally dedicated to him by the England fans. He's survived in the job longer than most international managers because he's brought success, but because the fans have invested in it. This is probably the first time, certainly at a major tournament, that Gareth has come under fire from the media, he's come under fire from ex-players, and he's getting a little bit of stick from those supporters who've spent thousands of pounds to come over here in Germany. They expect not only to see their team win, they expect to be entertained.
So is
That's
this his most testing time as manager,
Yes,
Alex?
I think it probably is, but some of the comments, I don't think are helping. I'd rather he came out fighting, actually. Didier Deschamps is getting similar stick in France because they've underwhelmed so far. And he came out in a press conference and said, well, if you don't like watching us, turn over the channel. I'd rather Southgate said that. Back yourself. Have faith in your own ability. We're going to get this job done.
You're nodding to what Alex is saying there, Simon.
Yeah, well, I mean, it exhibits a certain type of leadership. That's not Southgate's style. And the reasons why he's coming under pressure is because we've had 3 cracks of the whip. And there is a perception, despite his main observation is we're finishing top of the group. How can we be getting this kind of backlash? Well, crying out loud, there's not much of a backlash, is it? People are disappointed in the performance. They think the team selection isn't where it could be and where it should be, and it's clearly evident. It's not someone saying something that's unfair.
Yes.
I don't think there are extremes. There are people that are hysterical, and there are conversations that are going into hyperbole that don't need to be there. But I would have expected Gareth just to let it roll off his shoulders.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that they are top of the group, and ultimately that in and of itself is the job done, is where he's referring to. And of course, then he's got the certain aspects of the punditry world, which again, as I said earlier on, it's a mortal sin. You must not criticise the profession that you came from, which I think makes punditry slightly ridiculous, because if all you're going to do is trot out a narrative
exactly,
and support something, you've got to be fair in your criticism and your observations. But I don't think. Southgate will get a redemptive game, whether it's against the Slovakians or whether it's, if they get past the Slovakians, against the next opposition, which might be Italy. He'll get an opportunity for redemption, and everything will be forgotten. And of course, when you're in a situation where there's more days off than there is games, there is content that needs to be filled, and he needs to think about the manner in which he's filling it. Because I don't think it's pity. I don't think he's built from that stuff. I think he's built from sterner stuff than that. I just think it's ill-advised rhetoric from him and a slightly prickly response that isn't actually as prickly as it could be. It sounds rather weaker than it should do.
Alex, I was just going to say to Simon, I know you want to come back in this. Simon, here's the thing though. When the media criticise, you at times can call them divisive.
Yeah.
And division is not a good is not a good thing for any nation in a major tournament as this to have to cope with, because that's what it creates. But that is the very nature of the media, is it not? And for God's sake, just live with it.
Yeah, it's not the media's job to serve out agendas. It's not the media's job to misrepresent and to not characterise things properly and to give half a sentence, like the cowardly journalist the other day that wanted to curry favour with Harry Kane by asking half a question that he probably wanted to ask but didn't have the balls to do it, so he used Gary Lineker's analysis and then threw in the observation about what Gary Lineker was as a second.
Did you think that was a bit cowardly?
Well, I thought, of course it was cowardly. If you want to ask something, ask it. If you think England aren't performing very well, ask the question and then follow up with the next question behind it, which is, by the way, it was a fair observation from Gary, wasn't it? The team aren't playing very well, Harry, and neither are you. But they won't, and they don't. And I understand to some extent it's because they'll get shut down there on afterwards, and they'll say, thank you very much, you're not in the next press conference. I get that. But there's a balance between an agenda being served out, people taking a particular vantage point because it suits a narrative that they want to create.
Yeah.
No one is creating a narrative around the performance that England have put out. The only narrative that's been created is by 11 players on the field and a manager's selection. Yeah. That's the only narrative that's
we're the same as you, Alex, actually. We found the fans around us the other night up in Cologne in the game against Slovenia. We found the England fans great. They just before, during and after, they were all right with it.
They just want something to cling on to.
Yeah.
And something to enjoy. And Simon's right. If he does get his moment of redemption, be that battering Slovakia in the round of 16 or taking out an Italy or Switzerland. I actually think Switzerland might beat Italy, by the way. But those England fans will be singing that song again. Gareth, you're the one. So football fans are nothing but fickle. But in terms of the media coverage, I think we've come a long way since we had pictures of Graham Taylor as a vegetable on the front page of the newspaper, since we had effigies of David Beckham after he got sent off against Argentina. I think we've become more mature and more thoughtful in the way that we critique the England team. And as a result of that, Gareth isn't getting the kind of ride that his predecessors have got. So I don't understand why he's rallying against it.
Alex, you know that question we're talking about, the journalist put to Harry Kane the other day, and he quoted Lineker. Did you think that was cowardly journalism?
I don't know the context. It was interesting to hear Declan Rice and Harry Kane both singing from the same hymn sheet when it came to that criticism from Gary Lineker. And I do wonder, and maybe I'll speak to our guys in the England camp, I do wonder if they were told by the England PR team, look, the players are not particularly happy with what Gary Lineker said. Can we get that out in the press conferences?
It's quite funny. Just moments ago, I noticed, Simon, during the last break, you were in conversation with a gentleman over there who's Ian from Kidderminster, whose brother lives in Dusseldorf. And I heard you say to him, what do you think of England so far? And he says, well, they could do it, but they've got to dramatically improve. They could do it. They've got to dramatically improve. That seems to be the way that most England fans are looking at it. There's always a but. So, Rob, the Bolton fan who's phoned in this morning, is there a but with you? Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Jim. Thanks for having me on. I'd like to be complimentary. Hello. Yeah, I'd like to be complimentary to Southgate, but I just can't. The evidence is there. It's been there for so long. You go back to the Italy final. Some of his decisions, or lack of them, lost us that game. I don't see any success in losing games and not winning trophies. The talent pool is there in that squad. Now, people keep saying, oh, he's brought about a feel-good factor to the squad. Is it there now? Those players look fed up. It's mental as well as physical. Look,
that's an interesting point, Rob. What do you make of that, actually, Alex, what Rob is saying?
Yeah, I think physical is a big thing, actually, not just with England, but with a lot of players in this tournament. Kevin De Bruyne obviously has been having a pop at the Belgian fans, but he's not looked fit after a long Premier League season. Jude Bellingham, to me, looked like he was tiring towards the end of the Champions League campaign with Real Madrid, and I wonder, as a result of that, should he have been taken out in one of those group games, because he's looked knackered in the last 2 games. Harry Kane doesn't look fit. So, yeah, physically, they do look a little bit undercooked. And there's players in the squad that we haven't really seen a lot of so far, Adam Wharton being one, Kobbie Mainoo who obviously got the second half the other day, Palmer and Gordon came on. But I think a lot of England fans would have liked to have seen those younger, fresher players utilised a bit more in the group stages, as other nations have done.
Yeah, Mark is a big West Ham and England fan. Mark, good morning. You're through to us here in Dusseldorf. On Southgate's comments on England, where are they at? Where are you at with it?
Yeah, morning, guys. To be honest, I just don't understand what he's talking about. He's talking about an environment he's operating in. He creates the environment by the performances and the players that he puts on that pitch. So why can't we play more urgent football? Why can't we play with creativity, flair against teams that are 40 positions lower down in the world? He's creating his problem, his environment that he's not happy with.
That is interesting, Simon. Gareth is creating his... It's all of his own creation, the problems.
Well, in the conversations that we're having, he's the architect of his own downfall, because precisely that. I mean, it is quite obvious that the performance of the side isn't where it needs to be. So what do you want? Do you want gushing praise and ridiculous compliments that aren't warranted, or do you want some honesty? I'm trying to find out what has been said by anybody, besides the volume of it, because people are filling content, that is unfair. Because the big thing is unfair criticism. The big thing is when people are serving out an agenda against a particular individual because they have a partisan view on something. In this instance, most people are looking at it going, well, this isn't very good. We're a little bit disappointed. We expect a little bit more from our top players, and we'd like a little bit more ambition from our manager. We'd like to see a little bit more of what we saw from the 46th minute in the third game, rather than what we've seen for about 220 minutes of the 270 we've played in.
Do you think, Alex, briefly as we head to the break, is it too late for Southgate to change the narrative around him?
No, not at all. Not with the way the draws opened up. As I've said, there's every opportunity for England to go and grab this tournament and get to the final and do it with a bit of swagger and a bit of style. They'll get past Slovakia, I'm sure of that. As I mentioned, it will get a little bit more difficult when they play Switzerland or Italy, but I think they'll get through that as well. And then it'll be Austria in the semi-final. So they have a chance now to build momentum, to play their way into the tournament, as we've seen many a team do and go on to win it in the past. So it's certainly not too late.
Okay, very warm day here in Dusseldorf, as we've been saying. We're in this beautiful location. Many of you watching on YouTube and Facebook are having a look, asking me to tell you exactly where we are. We're in the outskirts of this beautiful city at the Seh Restaurant, S-E-H, the Seh Restaurant. It is an absolutely magnificent scene, lakeside scene, something similar to where we were in Munich, but Munich it was cold and the wind coming off the water. Here it is just absolutely stunning, if not roasting, but we'll get there. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Alex Crook. Anything but undercooked, live on talkSPORT.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.